Welcome back to Alliance Talks, a series of brief conversations with the industry's top advisors and solutions.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Alliance Talks. I'm Rachel Hyman, president of the Family Wealth Alliance, and our guest joining us today is Joel Guth, CEO and founder of Gryphon Financial Partners. Today, we're going to be talking about helping clients navigate life and legacy after selling a business. Gryphon created a unique framework called The Next Mountain, focused on preparing clients for life after selling a business. I know the FWA community will be interested to hear your insights, Joel, so we appreciate you being here today. Let's begin with what inspired you to create the Next Mountain framework?
Yeah, it was really a result of a new client we had. And as he kind of went through the process of selling the company, his kind of vision, which he didn't share with anybody, was he was going to go work with his son who had a separate business. And post-exit, he took a little vacation, came home, showed up at his son's office, and his son's like, I don't think so, Dad. The reason I have the business is I didn't want to work with you. I love you, but I don't want you. And it was really, really heartbreaking. And it taught us something that through our process of kind of focusing on the deal and the transaction and making sure the estate was right, and the tax piece was right, and the investments were good, we really didn't talk about what life after was going to really look like in depth. We did kind of broadly, and that just taught us that we were doing something wrong. And so we really backed up and kind of started at ground zero and just really focused on what could we do to help somebody build that vision post-sale, which they are great at doing because that's how they got to a successful company, was building an incredible vision for the business. How can we help them build that same vision for life after? Which is kind of how we got to the name, right? It became, what's the next mountain they're going to climb? Because many of these owners are exiting when they're relatively young, with a lot of money and freedom and all of the great things that success can create for you. But they've got a long road to go. Many of them, longer to live post-sale than they ran the business.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Can you explain a little bit more about what it is and why you believe it resonates so deeply with successful business owners preparing for this life after sale?
I think it resonates because we're taking them through the same process they went through when they built the vision and the business plan, right? It's just focusing now on them and their family and the community and really what, we remove the business. And as many of us know, the business isn't just a job, it's part of your life. And, many families, the kids will joke that the business is the fourth kid. And a lot of times they say that mom and dad love the fourth kid more than they love the other three because they spend so much time nurturing and developing and growing. So it's really just helping them develop the vision first at a very macro level. How do you want to live? And, basic things like how many hours a week do you work? Well, a lot of business owners work 60, 70 hours a week. So let's start with what are you going to do day to day? And how are we going to fill our calendar? Because, as my wife likes to joke, if you give me free time and you don't keep me occupied, I become a pain in the butt to everybody I'm around. And I think a lot of driven people are like that. And so how are we going to fill that day? What do you want to accomplish? And so it's just a series of questions that kind of lead them through, why did they build the business? What did they learn? What did they teach their team? What do they want to teach kind of the people that matter to them going forward post-business, and just helping them develop the vision for their life?
So much of your process focuses not just on financials, but also on purpose and family and legacy. And for many business owners, the company isn't just an asset, it's their life's work and a core part of their personal identity. To many, it may seem out of scope for their advisor to have responsibilities beyond financial. Why do you think it's important for advisors to address these additional concerns?
Yeah, great question. To us, it comes down to, and we talk a lot about this, that, the money and the wealth they've created is purely a tool to help them accomplish what they want with their life. The money isn't the end all. And I think a lot of times, the misperception about business owners is they built this business because they wanted wealth. Wealth typically is a byproduct of everything else they've done: the passion, the commitment, the fulfillment, the impact, right? They care a lot more about their customers and their teams than they do about the wealth when they're growing that company. The wealth just is a result of being driven. And so taking that same approach and saying, okay, well, yeah, we've got the money. And we will even joke that a lot of times the money part is the easier part to solve, right? I mean, the tax law is what the tax law is. The estate plan, we're gonna work within the current regulations and laws, but helping them figure out what's going to replace that fulfillment. Because the biggest thing we saw is, they love having the first kind of 60 to 90 days of nobody bugging them and nobody calling them. And then we had a client who said it. He goes, you know what? And then about 91st day, nobody called me. And I was heartbroken, right? Because I wasn't needed. So how are we going to replace that? And how are we going to help them think about how are we going to get fulfillment and impact as we go forward? And it's just a very different landscape after the sale.
And how do you help them navigate that emotional side of stepping away while still creating the legacy that honors what they've actually spent their life building?
I think at first it's a little bit difficult sometimes to get them engaged because it feels a little too touchy-feely and a little too soft. But very quickly they realize, we think, I haven't thought about this, and it's even some basic blocking and tackling. We had a discussion recently with a client, late 40s, so very young to be selling the company and kind of be done. And, a lot of them turn to their health, because when you're working 60 or 70 hours a week, your health starts to take a back seat because it's your business. And then it's kind of your family. And then if you have any time left and you have any energy left, then maybe you take care of yourself. But a lot of us don't. So they start talking about their health. And he said, well, I thought after we get the kids to school, his wife, we'll go work out together. His wife kind of looked at him and goes, well, I work out with my girlfriends. I'm not changing that. And then we go to lunch and, she has her schedule and he didn't. And I think they start to discover, wow, I haven't really thought about, other than I'm going to move. I want to go somewhere warm. I don't want to see the snow in Chicago or Columbus anymore. But other than that, occupying their day and then sitting and saying, okay, so let's say we're going to work out for 2 hours. Then what are we going to do? Wow, I don't know. And what are we going to get engaged in? Where are we going to take all of these skills, these incredible skills that you learned and you grew and developed to be a successful business owner? Where can we apply that now to make a different impact that's going to matter to you? So I think at first it's tough, but we've always said the same thing about business owners. They're fiercely independent. They're very close to the vest until they realize you can help them. And once they realize that you can help them and you can help get them where they want to get faster, better, quicker, then it's amazing how much they'll open up. And it's having a confidant, because other than their family, who do they talk to about this? And I think for us, from a selfish perspective, if we can get through that defense mechanism and we can get them to share what they really want to accomplish with the next 20 or 30 years and what scares them and what worries them, and what's kind of the thing that now is going to keep you up at night other than the business, not only are we adding deep value to the family, but we're creating a connection that goes way beyond what our asset allocation is, or what our, is our fee cheap enough, or are we getting the best returns, because we've made a difference. And it just takes the relationship to a different level.
Absolutely. I love that. Do you, just out of curiosity, do you use this methodology with clients prior to retirement, whether or not they're business owners selling a business? It sounds to me like it would be something for anyone who's retiring to really gain that kind of relationship with their advisor firm.
We've started to, mostly with C-suite executives, because I think
Yeah.
you have a similar personality with the chief executive officer or chief operating officer. But what has to be kind of present for this to make an impact is you've got to be somebody who, unfortunately, is obsessed with your job, right? You got to be obsessed with your role. That role's got to be your identity. And I think your point's valid with a CEO. If you ask them kind of who you are, well, I'm the CEO of this. So it is applicable, yes.
Yeah, interesting. I know you had talked about the Next Mountain workbook that you developed for the program. What is the reaction from your client who go through the workbook framework? What kind of feedback do you get?
Again, at first it's kind of, wow, this is a lot. It's a lot of details, because what we're really trying to do is just like your business. What's the vision? Then what's the 3-year goal? What's the 1-year goal? What are our hurdles? What do we need to kind of be aware of? So at first I think it's a lot of work, but as we start getting in and they realize the depth of the questions and how we're helping them set that vision for even the first 90 days post sale, when you walk away, if you're really done, what's day one going to look like? Are we getting on a plane and taking off to somewhere warm and celebrating? Are we taking the family? Is it just you and your spouse? But once we start digging in, they get very engaged, and we have clients, years later that will reference the workbook and get it back out. And, again, they're driven, they're scorekeepers. They want to look back, what I thought 3 years ago, is that what I'm doing? So
Wow.
it's been a really great response from them.
Yeah, I would think so. It sounds like a fantastic tool. What are some of the most surprising or overlooked priorities you've seen business owners discover through this process?
I think the biggest thing is how much time they're going to have. And then I think that really gets them engaged in talking about what's going to matter. Because at first, I don't think they realize it until you start to pencil out what's a week going to look like. And at first, it sounds great to have free time, right? When you're working so many, I mean, as you know, you work a lot of hours. It sounds great to have nothing to do. Well, eventually we had a client who said, he goes, you can only catch so many fish, drink so many beers with your buddies, and hit so many golf balls until you're bored out of your mind. And so I think helping them discover, okay, we've got huge chunks of time, what really matters to us. And I wouldn't say it's, everybody seems to have the same priorities, right? It's their family, it's their health, it's the community, it's some impact they want to make. I think what the surprise is more of the logistics, and back to the husband who thought he and his wife were going to work out together every day. And she said, no, I have my plans. And so I think it's just getting ahead of any surprises that may come up when you have that kind of time and freedom.
Yeah, incredible value. What common mistakes do you find owners make when selecting bankers or buyers? And does the next mountain help them avoid that before it's too late?
So I'd love to say yes, it does. And we have a case right now that we're working through where the owner really wanted to be done. And, I think one of the things that we've seen is that when someone else takes over your company and you're working for them, they're not going to do it the way you do it. And that can be really, really tough every day to walk in, not be in control, because business owners, we're control freaks, right? We love to be in control. We love to make decisions. Not having the control and see how they impact your team, your customers, and people that matter to you is really, really tough. He knew that. And he said, I just want out. I want to sell it. They need to replace me. I don't want to come in and watch somebody screw up my life's work. So I'm done. And keeping that goal forefront, because that changes the dynamics of who is willing to buy you and what that deal looks like. And the banker kept pushing and pushing because there were earnouts and there were incentives to stay. And we just kept saying, look, it's fine if you do it, but that's not what your goal was. And if we're going to do that, let's make sure that we're okay tying both a financial piece of it to you staying and being able to stay, because it's really hard to stay. But also just, is it worth the extra money, or is it worth maybe taking, he has more money than he's going to spend. Right. And so is it worth taking a little less money up front to go live the life you want to live and do it the way? And there's no right or wrong answer. Our job is to just keep playing back to him what we talked about, what he told us, what he shared with us, and what his goal was. And then, again, he'll make the decision. We just need to make sure he's got the information.
That is just a priceless advocate for you. It's incredible what you've created for your client. It's beautiful.
Not to disparage anybody, because investment bankers fill an incredibly valuable role, but they don't get paid unless the deal gets done. And so what we say to them is, we're the only people sitting at that table who don't care. If you get the deal done, great. If you don't, you're paying us a consulting fee. We're still here by your side. And I think your word advocate is the right one. Our job is to make sure that somebody's representing the family's goals and the owner and their family's dreams at that table when the deal's getting struck.
I'm going to go off script again with another question. Do you only offer this, Joel, for clients of Gryphon at this point?
So, we did when we were at one of the big firms, because we didn't have a way to really price our services, because everything is an AUM model. So one of the areas that's really grown for us in the last few years is engaging as a true consulting and striking a consulting contract with somebody who has no money at Gryphon. Right. Now, obviously, selfishly, what we're trying to do is add value and show them that when they get the money and the transaction's done, that we should be where they come to have their money managed. But we do offer it now to clients on a consulting basis.
Yeah, that's fantastic. For other family wealth advisors tuning in today, what's the single most important mindset shift that they should embrace when helping clients through a business transition like this?
That's a really good question. I think it's, and not to insult anyone's process when it comes to allocating money and cash flow planning, but the reality is we all do that. Maybe some do it better than others, but to really differentiate yourself, I think understanding on a deep level what concerns the family post transaction and what we can help them avoid, because we've been involved in over 50 some transactions. We should learn something that somebody who goes through it one time doesn't know, and can we bring that value to them to help them miss some potholes that are going to come up in year 1 or year 3 or year 5. And if we can talk about that and add that value up front, they're going to hire us and they're going to engage us in a different way than they engage somebody who just is going to run their money.
And that's a long-lasting relationship. Talk about legacy.
Well, and you develop great friends, right? I mean, you think about who your best friends are in life. They're people who you share your dreams with, your goals with, and for us, we want those to be our best clients.
I love that. Oh, Joel, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us today. The Next Mountain Framework is a great reflection of what FWA hears from our members and the industry in general, that ultra high net worth clients are seeking truly comprehensive support from their advisors beyond just financial. And I can see how your thoughtful approach really resonates for your clients and for your non-clients who are leveraging Next Mountain. So thank you to our audience for tuning in today. Thank you, Joel, so much for sharing your insights. And we look forward to connecting again on our next Alliance Talks. Thank you.